Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel, where we've got a lot to talk about. Early this morning, Australian time, I woke up, and as you do when you wake up, you look at a few social things online. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but it's a bit of a routine that I have to check and see if anything new has happened overnight. And the biggest of all bombshells was dropped on us by Australian Survivor. And, I thought that things could not get better. I'm completely satisfied when it comes to my experience as a Survivor fan. I mean, I live in a time where we have seen all winners come back to play Survivor in season 40. And the most entertaining winner of all time, in my opinion, Tony, became a two-time champion, beating out all of the other winners. I even saw Australian Survivor take on a theme that was so beloved by so many different fans in Heroes versus Villains and actually do it justice, not completely flop like I thought it would be a flop when they first announced it, especially because it was going to be half new and half returnees coming to that season. But I thought that, I'm happy. Things are happening in Survivor. You can't complain. Like, the new era has been disappointing as a whole for me personally. And, I kind of still think that we are lucky that season 50 is a thing. And, season 50 being announced as a returnee season didn't get me, it didn't get the juices flowing. It didn't get me excited enough to actually break the hiatus that I had with recording solo videos on this channel. It's been about a year since the last time I did a solo video, and I believe that was for $1 Million Island in Australia. Predominantly, we just do podcasts and longer form content on this channel now. But you know what? I've got to break the duck and I have to talk about the news. We're going to get a season that we as fans thought would never happen, that there's no possibility that we're going to see a Worlds Collide season happen where you've got the best from the US taking on the best of the world. Well, it's almost taking on the best of the world. Survivor South Africa has been snubbed on this future season that is going to happen. And I understand why, because they want to have two full tribes. It's easier to tell the story. Australian Survivor always works best with two tribes. And it's going to be Australian Survivor Legends versus Survivor US Legends. And I wanted to react a little bit about, I wanted to react to the news of this happening. And let me bring up the article where it's been brought up in a few different places, but I always like to actually read through the Inside Survivor articles when they come up. So I'm going to bring this one up and I'm going to read through this here real quickly. Bear with me if you're new, if you haven't heard about this yet, because I know there's a lot of people on the channel who follow us who don't necessarily watch Australian Survivor. They're only fans of Survivor US or The Challenge. But this is groundbreaking in my opinion. And I think this could be the nail in the coffin of Survivor CBS. Jeff is going to take note of this. He thought announcing season 50 with returnees was going to get people excited, which it did, 100% did. But in all reality, I don't know if it's going to be a cast that we're all going to be that excited to see. I think it's going to be new era heavy, and probably a lot of players prior to season 40 that we would like to see come back won't return on season 50. And season 50 is massive. It's the half century. How can you not have a legend season for that? And I don't think we're going to get a legend season. I think we're going to get a typical all-star season, which for me doesn't get me as excited. But this got me excited. This got me recording a video today to talk about what is happening in Australian Survivor and why I think Australian Survivor is going to continue to squeeze when it comes to, the quality of the show. It's squeezing Survivor US at the moment and saying, hey, we're here. We should be respected. And a lot of fans who watch both franchises will tell you Australian Survivor has been probably the, superior product for the last, I'd say easily 3 seasons. Definitely the last 2 seasons. It has been right up there. So Inside Survivor reports Australian Survivor is hoping to pull off its biggest and most exciting theme ever in 2025 with an international showdown between Australia and the United States of America. Inside Survivor can confirm that TVBlackbox.com's report that Network 10 and production company Endemol Shines Australia are working on an Australia versus USA theme for the next season of Australian Survivor. The idea has been in development over the past couple of months, and it is expected to feature iconic castaways from both Australian Survivor and Survivor US. Who would you like to see? We're definitely going to have to do like a proper podcast where we talk about favorites that we'd like to see. Like top of mind for me immediately is players like David Gannat, the Golden God. I think George is a lock. If he wants to play again, he'll probably become a third-time player. And then you probably also will see someone like a Luke Toki. You'll probably like, will Haley come back? Do we get her? She's a new mom from memory. Shani, will she come back? She's a new mom. I feel like there's a lot of people that potentially could come back that would make it exciting. But yeah, who's going to come back? Who's going to be those players? And what tribe will Nina play? Is Nina going to be an Australian Survivor? I feel like she has to be because she's played Australian Survivor, not Survivor US. So we'd have to put her on that tribe. Do we get to see her play? For the US, like who's going to be those people that you'd love to see come back and play the show? Like for me, if I had to choose someone to come back and play the show, especially from an era before the new Survivor, I mean, someone like Wendell comes into mind because he's someone who is a big game player and he's good at challenges, and they're going to need that in Australian Survivor. Australian Survivor is a lot more demanding physically when it comes to the challenges in general compared to the US. So they're going to have to fight fire with fire when it comes to that. For the new school, if they had to bring some new school players, maybe like a Jonathan, maybe a Hunter from this season, but, will new players from season 40 onwards actually come back? And will we see the big players? Will we see the legends of the game coming back? Will we see Boston Rob coming back? Will we see Sandra maybe coming back to play again? Russell Hans must be really annoyed with himself that he's been bagging on Australian Survivor for so long because he was a part of the Australian Survivor, cast before. He could have been an easy lock to come back and play again. And I know he might say he doesn't want to play, but he desperately wants to play the game again. So I think that, if you think about that, there could be big players. You could have Suri Fields coming back. You could have Stephanie LaGrossa, who just recently played in Traders, and Snake in the Grass. I think that's what that show was called. So, maybe some of these players make their way back. Like, leave in the comment section below. Who would you like to see from both these franchises represent? However, casting is still in its early stages and the theme is wholly dependent on being able to lock people down. So let's hope, when Kelly Wentworth gets that call, she says yes. Let's hope that Johnny Fairplay doesn't, decide not to play. After I know so many years of covering Australian Survivor, he probably desperately wants to get in the arena to prove that he still has it. Inside Survivor has also heard the season could be much shorter than the usual length of Australian Survivor seasons, which tends to run anywhere between 47 and 50 days. You heard it right. Twice the amount of time that the new school survivors spend out there in Survivor US. This edition could potentially be half that, even shorter than the former 39-day standard. I hope that they at least do 39 days as a minimum, in my opinion, because they need to, especially if some of these new school survivors come in from Survivor US, they need to put them through the ringer. I know they take food away from New School Survivor, and that's supposed to make the show tougher or harder to do. I still think the mental drain of having to be out there for as long as 39 days plus outweighs that for me. And I just don't think that starving people on the island to the degree that they do in Survivor US is entertaining. Like, I don't know why that is seen as a positive. Filming is expected to take place in September, with the show airing in January 2025. We do not yet have details on the location. Update. We have heard a regular length newbie season will still be filmed in July in addition to the AU versus US special. So even more great news for Survivor fans in Australia. We get 2 seasons. We get 2 seasons next year, which is so exciting to know that Australian Survivor is going to be running strong. And who knows if, someone new comes into this newbie season, they could become a back-to-back player. David Gannat did it. Dirty Harry did it for Australian Survivor. You obviously had someone like a Russell Hans who did it in Samoa and Heroes versus Villains. There's probably more players that I can't think of at the top of my head, but there's a lot of players that have done that before. So we could see a new legend being born. This wouldn't be the first time Survivor contestants from the US have competed in Australian Survivor. 2-time Survivor runner-up Russell Hans appeared on the Champions versus Contenders edition, while 2-time Survivor winner Sandra Diaz-Twine participated in Blood versus Water with her daughter Nina Twine in 2021. Stay tuned to Inside Survivor for more details in the coming weeks. There you have it. So I think personally, this could be the thing that will finally put the nail in the coffin for Jeff Probst and his new version of Survivor. I know there's going to be a lot of people who's going to stumble across this channel, probably because it's shorter in its content, and maybe I will get a lot of flack for saying the fact that I'm not as impressed with the game dynamics of the new season. And there's probably a lot of new fans that have just gotten into Survivor that really loves the way that it plays. But Australian Survivor, it's been debated for a while now online that it is the premier version, the grown-up version of Survivor these days. And I do feel like, if I have to say one thing, the Australians that are going to represent will have to carry that torch. You know, it's going to be a heavy load for them to carry going into the season, where fans expect them to steamroll some of the Survivor US players, especially if it's going to be the newer school players that are going to play this game against the current crop of Australian Survivor legends. My early take would be that Australian survivors are going to go into this with a bit of pressure on them to actually deliver and show that they have got the premier version of the show, that their show is tougher. We've had players on this channel before, like a Faraz. We've had players like Luke Toki say that they would love to wipe the floor with US players. So let's see if they can actually follow through and do that in a season such as this. And in the meantime, even if they don't, we the fans will win all the way, because there is a chance we get to see legends come back. Now, let's say they pull off the impossible. Let's say they do actually get legends of Survivor US to come back and play Australian Survivor. They would be outshining anything that Survivor Season 50 is going to do if they don't go down the legends route. You know, I think this is a master move by the production team of Australian Survivor. Survivor South Africa, who is currently on ice. The season is on, the franchise is on ice. We don't know if it's going to come back. You know, they wanted to do something like this as well. So they're now jumping ahead of Survivor South Africa. And, you know, Jeff has kind of said they thought about it, but they didn't know if it would translate well to a US audience, which I don't understand, because Australians are English as well. Like their first language is English. Yes, they're going to have a bit of an accent, but I'm pretty sure people will understand Australians if they were to play the US franchise. But I'll be honest, I'm glad to see the Australian franchise doing this rather than the US franchise. And I think that if they pull it off, I think if they do a good job at this, this could be the pressure that Jeff needs to actually maybe take note, because I know he doesn't really watch the other franchises, but maybe this one, if they get this really big theme, like, how could he not feel a certain level of, those are my players, those are people we casted, and they're representing our franchise against the Australian franchise. How can he not watch that? Like, I feel like Jeff will take note of this. And if it's a good season, hopefully he gets inspired and gets some ideas from this to move back to simpler times when it comes to Survivor. You know, like maybe back to the classic 39 days, maybe less boat rides, or silly gimmicky game mechanics that don't allow players to play the game. Like, I'm really interested in seeing that, and give them some rice on the island as well while you're at it, Jeff, because, you know, having people with a little bit of food can give them that energy that we need to be entertaining and actually do things on the island. Look at Q. He's come alive since he's had food in season 46. Suddenly he's sinking his own game, and I'm loving it. I'm there for every single moment of that gameplay taking place. But anyways, that's my very early thoughts and reactions to this big news of this season dropping. And you know that it's big because Sandra Diaz-Twine has already started talking about it on Instagram. She's got Boston Rob replying to it. They're choosing Jonathan to go and represent, and they're saying maybe we need someone like a Hunter. You know, I loved Sandra's comment on her Instagram where she said, you know, we're gonna have to get really well balanced characters or cast members to go play and represent the USA, because Australia will be bringing it. And there is no one more qualified than Sandra. She's played the franchise. She's gone head to head with these players, and she knows what Australian Survivor is about. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. If you haven't watched Australian Survivor yet, this is the time to get into it. You know, make sure you start watching Australian Survivor. You get to know who these legends are that have played the show before, and prepare yourself to be entertained if this thing does drop. I should probably put down here, nothing's confirmed yet, but if this does happen, it is going to be one hell of an exciting show to watch. Grab your torches, head back to camp, and I'll catch you guys next time.